Good morning. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Apologies that I'm a bit late, but technology was just not playing nicely with me this morning. So we've got it all sorted out, and here I am. Hope everybody's had a good week. This is the card that we're going to be making today. You'll find that it comes together really quickly, but it is a really effective card, particularly for the men that need a birthday card. The products that we're using the Waves of Inspiration stamp set. I'm also using Gentle Waves stamp set. That's that big background stamp. We're using the sentiment die here from the Waves dies, and of course my good old layering ovals. I'm also using the foil paper that's available until the end of the month with the Waves of Inspiration pre-order. So you get the, I think it's Coastal Cabana Silver and Night of Navy in the pack. This is really nice DSP, and you do really want to get that because it's not available once the new catalogue goes live. I'm also using Misty Moonlight, good old Misty Moonlight, which is retiring, so we need to use it as much as we can before it retires. And I've used the bark embossing folder. So can you see I've used it here on the foil sheet? So although it's supposed to be bark, it actually has quite a nice effect for the waves. So let's get started. Now, of course, because I have to be difficult, this stamp set, yes, no, it's just one big stamp, is actually a landscape stamp, but I want to stamp my card portrait. So we're going to do that, but we're just going to need a little bit of extra stamping. So big stamp, it's always easier to put the stamp upside down and ink the stamp rather than trying to stamp the stamp onto the ink pad. You're just going to get better coverage like this, and you can also then see exactly where you've inked and where you haven't. I'm not completely upset if it's not a very smooth coverage, because it's okay if the water looks a little bit in and out. And then I'm going to stamp that onto my card. Now, normally with these big stamps, I do find it easier to use the Stamparatus, but because I need to flip the stamp, I'm using it on my big block. So now what we're going to do is ink up again, but this time I'm not going to do the whole thing because I really just want that top bit. And then we're going to turn it, I'm going to say upside down, so that I've got the top bit there, and stamp again. Okay, so now I've got my whole thing covered. Okay, I can see at the bottom there, I obviously put it down crooked, so I'm going to just try and cover that bottom bit. I didn't stamp down far enough when I stamped it. There we go, that looks good. And before I put the stamp away, I want to just stamp a little bit along the bottom here for the insert. Now, I could just do a bit of the stamp, but I tried that before and found that it didn't work because I didn't judge it correctly. So ink up the full length of the stamp, and it doesn't matter if you're stamping a bit over onto your scrap paper. And my hands aren't too blue, so that's doing well. And then let's stamp the pelican. Now, I don't know about you, but I love this little pelican in the stamp set. He is just so cute. So this is my layering circle, and the way that I do this, and it's not too fussed, but I stamp one pelican in the middle first, where I'm trying to get his head just on the top of the circle. And then I'm going to stamp another one next to him there. And then the third one. So I found it easier to stamp the middle one first and then do the side ones. It just seemed to line up better, but of course if it works easier for you to do the side ones first, you can do that. And then you've got this long skinny happy birthday sentiment. So I've already stamped that, and I've cut it out with that die. Now the dies have two really nice sentiment bits. There's this one and there's that one. I just felt that because the happy birthday is such a skinny sentiment, if I used that die, it was getting a bit lost on it. So that was why we chose the other one. Okay, now that's all our stamping done. And the assembly of this card is really easy. So got my Night of Navy card base, which is my standard half a sheet of cardstock. And here's my silver foil, which I've put through that bark embossing folder. And if I can find my glue. So we're going to stick this on. And I'm going to try and get it kind of in the middle, but it doesn't really matter if it's not 100% accurate in the middle. I'm going to just stick that over there. Stick that onto the front of my card. And I've just realized that I was so enthusiastic to get assembling the card. I actually want to stamp a pelican onto, oh, I thought I'd picked up 2 sheets of paper, but it was the foil sheet that I was feeling. And I shifted it. So, oops. Okay, so let's just quickly stamp another pelican because I like this pelican. I like it all over, and I would stamp him on my envelope as well. There we go. And we'll stick this inside the card. I've got my layering oval, which is the one that's just slightly bigger than the circle. So I'm just going to have a T. Can't believe that I said that. No, it's not the layering oval. I meant scalloped circle. Clearly my brain's not working very well today. So we've just got a small edge of those scallops sticking out there. Pop that up on dimensionals. And I've cut a strip of the foil sheet. I think that this was about 3 mil. I thought it was less than 1/2 centimeter, but on here it's looking like it's a little bit more. So maybe just call it 1/2 centimeter, and we're just going to thread it through. And that was about 8 centimeters long. You could go a little bit longer if you want to. I just wanted it that it's going to stick out a little bit on either side there. And I'm not gluing that down, but once I put my dimensionals, it will actually hold that strip in place. So we're going to put 3 dimensionals, double purpose, popping up my sentiment and holding my foil strip. And there you go, a really quick card, but ready to give to the men in your life because they like getting birthday cards as well. And then I just wanted to show you, here's another one that I've done, which is pretty much the same card, except I didn't stamp the C. Again, I used that bark embossing folder on the piece at the back. And here I've used the Night of Navy instead of the silver, again with that bark embossing folder, so it looks like it's got that like watery look. And we've used the Night of Navy strip. So really quick cards, but I had a card class yesterday and the girls really loved them, just very effective. And of course everybody loves the Pelican. So like I said, if you want the foil sheets, you need to order before the end of them, or before the new catalog goes live, because they're not available in the new catalog. They're only on the pre-order. And if you haven't tried embossing your foil sheets before, give that a go, because they do emboss really beautifully and it just adds something to your cards. So have a good week, and hopefully you will join me again next Sunday, and I'll try and be on time for our regular stamping session. Until then, bye.